The Netherlands is famous for many things: tulips, canals, windmills and taxes. Have you ever heard that Dutch tax office will take half of your salary when you living and working here and you will basically have no money to spend? Well, you're not alone. I've often heard this opinion, but is it actually true? Let's just figure this out together. Let's start with the basics. In the Netherlands, the income tax is divided into three boxes. Box 1 is the most common one, and it covers all your income and also the house you own. Box 2, this covers your business ownership and dividends. Box 3, this is also sometimes called wealth tax. It basically covers all of your assets, such as cash deposits in the bank, also investments, etc. In this video I want to focus on the box 1 because it's the most common one and most of the people will pay it. If you're curious to learn a little bit about box 3, I have a video about the investing in the Netherlands. You can check it in the description below. The Netherlands uses the progressive tax scale system, which is very common in the Western countries nowadays. It means that more money you earn, the more taxes you pay. But the Dutch progressive system is actually very simple. It consists just two brackets of taxes. So bracket 1, it's for income up to 73,031 euro in 2024 and it taxed at 36.97%. And the second bracket, it's the income above 73,031 euro in 2024 and is taxed at 49.50%. There's actually three tax brackets, but I will explain a little bit later why I think the third bracket is not relevant at all. And looking at these tax brackets, you might think, oh wow, so everybody was right. Almost 50% or at least 37 will go to the Dutch government from my income. But let's dig a little bit deeper. First of all, like in many other countries, this tax applies progressively. So if you're earning 75,000 euro per year, for example, the tax of 37% will apply to most of your income up to this limit, and only the small portion of 2,000 will get the tax of 49%. So not your whole salary will be applied by the highest bracket, only the portion that gets after the limit. Second, after all the taxes are calculated, there is a special system in place called tax credits. They apply onto your taxes and reduces them even further. There are two key tax credits in the Netherlands. First, general tax credit, and second, the labor tax credit. The general tax credit applies to anyone who has income in the Netherlands. The calculation is a little bit complicated, so I put the table here, and if you want you can pause the video and see how it is calculated for each amount of earnings. The second is the labor tax credit. The labor tax credit applies if you have employment in the Netherlands, but actually freelance and business owners also get this credit, so it kind of counts as an employment. The formula is again even more complex, so I put the table right here. You can again pause the video and see how it's all calculated. Usually you don't need to remember any of this because it's calculated automatically. But let's just use an example. Suppose you earn 48,000 euro per year or 4,000 euro per month. Initially all your salary taxed at the first tax bracket, which is 36.97%. In that case, the tax will be 17,745 and plus cents in taxes, which seems kinda high, right? But thanks to tax credit, the story completely changes. So for 48,000 salary, the general tax credit is 1,824 and the labor tax credit is 5,008 euros. So we take the taxes we calculate before 17,000 and we subtract all of this tax credit from it, which gets us 10,912 euro or 909 euro per month, which is much more manageable. In reality, in that case, your effective tax rate is just 22.7%, and it's not bad at all. It's not the scary 37 or even 49%. Of course, if if your salary increases, the tax will increase as well. Here are some more examples to get you an idea how the increase of the salary will affect your effective tax rate. Effective tax rate, by the way, is the real tax rate you pay on your income. So if you earn 60,000 euro per year, your effective tax rate will be 28.2. For a salary of 75,000 euro per year, your effective rate is 32.5. And for a substantial salary of 130,000 euros per year, which is extremely high here in the Netherlands, the effective rate is 42.2%. So as you can see, even with such a huge salary, you still pay much less than 49%. So a small remark about the third tax bracket. The third tax bracket is the lowest one, and you actually pay it on the salary below 38,098 euro per year. The tax rate is just 9.32%, which is quite nice. But unfortunately, there's social security tax in the Netherlands as well. And social security tax is 27.65%. And if you combine these two percentages, you get 36.97%, which is exactly as the first tax bracket I was talking about. And social security tax is conveniently kept at 38,098 euro, which means we don't really need to calculate this lowest bracket at all. We can just focus on the main two, because the first bracket is gonna be 36.97 no matter what. It's just up to the 38,000 you just pay part of the taxes to the social security and part to as income tax, and above the 38 you just pay everything in income taxes, but the percentage is the same. So unless you need to exactly know how much social security you pay, it just doesn't make any sense to calculate it separately. So for simplicity's sake, we can just say there are two tax brackets. Beyond credits, I mentioned there are other several ways to reduce your taxable income or reduce your taxes. For example, if you have a mortgage for a house here, you can reduce your taxes on the partial amount of the interest rates you're paying for this mortgage. You can also reduce your taxes in the first year for part of the money that you spend on obtaining your mortgage. Hey! And by the way, if you're ever planning to buy a house in the Netherlands, I recently wrote an ebook. Here it is. Yeah, I downloaded it on my Kindle, so it looked official. But basically, it's all the information I know about buying a house here in the Netherlands, all my experience, everything I researched. It's packed into this 55 pages ebook where you find everything you need to know to buy a house. I also created a couple of calculators for you. You can calculate renting versus buying, or your mortgage payments in the future, or how much the house will cost you during the lifetime. So it's a really nice package, and you can find it by this link or click the link in the description and buy it for yourself. It's a really nice tool and information that I wish I had when I was buying a house. Now back to the video. Another ways to reduce your taxes are some healthcare and disability related expenses. Also certain transportations, especially the work related, can be reduced from taxes. Also charity is a very popular way to reduce your taxes up to a certain amount. And of course there's famous 30% ruling in the Netherlands for expats who moved here. 30% ruling is a special government program that was designed to attract foreign workers into the country. Until recently, it basically meant that 70% of your income is taxable and 30% is completely tax-free. Recently, the program has changed slightly. After 2024, when you get this 30% ruling, you get it for the first 20 months. And for the second 20 months in the country, you get a 20% ruling, and for the last 20 months in the country, you get a 10% ruling, which means that your income tax-free is 30%, 20%, and 10%. While there was some pushback from the big tech companies who rely on the foreign tax force, there is some controversy in general about changing this program, but for now, this policy works this way: is 30, 20, 10. 15% ruling, and if this will change in the future, I will update you for sure. Now let's talk about how do you actually pay taxes in the Netherlands. Taxes paid here once in a calendar year, and the deadline usually is up to 1st of May, although I'm not recommending you to wait until the deadline date. It's better to start somewhere in the beginning of April, especially if you're new to the country. You usually receive a letter on your postmail address from the Belastingdienst, which is the tax office of the Netherlands. And you pay everything online on the Belastingdienst portal. You usually log in with your DigiD, and then you fill everything there that questionnaire asked you. It's usually just a question how much you spent on different stuff and how much you earned from different sources. You don't need to worry about knowing any of the complicated calculations. The website will calculate everything for you. It's fully in Dutch, the tax form, but you can easily use the Google Chrome translator or your browser of choice translator, and it works very well. It doesn't break the page or anything like this. If you're employed in the company usually pay your income taxes every month, so you get your salary on your bank account. It's already after the tax were deducted, which makes a little bit more convenient instead of paying just once a year. But if you haven't worked the full year, your taxes still will be calculated like you're working the full year. It's just how the banking or accounting software works, I guess. And the next year, in April, after you filed your tax return, the system recalculates the taxes and you will get a nice little bonus because you paid too much taxes if you haven't worked the full year. This tax difference or tax refund usually come to your bank account in a few months after you file the tax return, so somewhere in the middle of the summer. Also bear in mind that taxes are calculated for each individual here in the Netherlands, so even if you're a family and you can even file the tax return together, you still get the calculation for each person, which is quite nice because if it would be calculated for the household income, the taxes would have been much higher. If you are self-employed, like a freelancer or business owner, you are responsible for filing all your taxes. So once a year you will have to file all your spendings and all the earnings of your company, of your freelance business. So don't forget to track everything. It's actually something I'm really struggling with because I'm just using Google spreadsheet, and sometimes you just forget some income, especially if you have different sources, or sometimes you forget to track some spending of your business. So if you know any good software which doesn't break a bank, let me know to do it a little bit more conveniently. I think another very important aspect to understand where your taxes is actually spent. We kind of used to the idea that our taxes just gone from our salary or from our earnings and they just go into some government pockets. In some countries it's indeed true. We just pay taxes and we never see how they works or anything we get from them. In my opinion, in the Netherlands it's not worked this way. I see tons of great cities, amazing roads, bicycle and other good infrastructures, parks, natural reserves and welfare programs, and I'm really happy what I see. I'm really happy with the results that government doing. I really don't mind paying taxes if I see that improves my lives and other people living in this country. It actually feels like a privilege, to be honest. There are of course much more taxes which you actually pay when you live in the Netherlands. There's a VAT, there's tourist tax, there's a home ownership tax, there's car ownership and road taxes, the import and export taxes, and the one I mentioned before, box 2 and box 3. But this video was only focused on box 1 taxes, so let me know if you need to cover all the other taxes you pay here in the Netherlands. I hope this video gave you some idea how it works and maybe it's not as scary anymore for you, and if so, then my job is done well. That's it for today. I hope this video was useful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, check my other videos about life in the Netherlands here and here, and see you in the next one. Doei doei!